drafted or did you enlist?
I enlisted.
Where were you living at the time?
I was in college at the time in Terre Haute, Indiana.
Why did you join?
I felt a sense to serve my country.
And why did you pick the branch that you picked?
They kind of picked me. I went to the nuclear part of the Navy, and they recruited me in college. I'd originally tried to get into the Army out of high school, but that, for medical reasons, that didn't work out at the time. So a few years down the road, it worked out better.
Do you recall your first days in service?
Yeah, I went to, of actually participating in. When I first joined up, I was enlisted and I stayed in college. So my only requirements initially were go to college, keep my grades up. And then my first duty station was in officer candidate school in Newport, Rhode Island.
What was that like?
It was different. Their whole job was to see if they could break you down to see if you really wanted to do this. And then once you figured out that they were just playing games with you, you just kind of went with it.
And then from officer candidate school, what came after that?
I went to nuclear power school down in Orlando, Florida.
And what was that like?
A lot of schoolwork, a lot of late nights, tired all the time. But it was fun. It was good. I did okay there.
What did you say that you went over there? What were you learning there?
Nuclear power.
And then from there, where did you go?
I went to a nuclear power training unit out in Idaho Falls, Idaho. And that was to apply what I learned at nuclear power school to, in my case, a submarine situation.
How did you do with that?
Not so well. I failed that, or it wasn't well suited for me. And then after that, I went to the supply corps school down in Athens, Georgia.
Was that better for you?
I thought all the guys were whiners because I come from nuclear power school where everything was go, go, go. And you take 2 or 3 tests in a day, and those guys would whine if you took 2 tests in a day. It's like, this is nothing, guys. I was taking closed book tests, and then Athens, that school was open book tests. I was like, you take 4 or 5 in a day, open book.
It's not that hard.
No, not when you come from where I came from.
Yeah. And then from Georgia, where did you go?
I went to my first ship, USS L.Y. Spear, to a submarine tender, and I was a dispersing officer and a sales officer.
What did that job entail?
Dispersing was the money part of it, paying people, that type of thing. And then the sales officer was, you have a ship store where people buy stuff, and then also part of that operation is a laundry service and a barber shop.
And how did you find that?
That was kind of fun. Not too hard. Good workers.
And how long were you doing that?
That was from August of '93 to June of '96.
And then where did you go?
From there, I went to a training school in Norfolk. It's a fleet training center in Norfolk. And still, I just remained a supply corps officer. And there I was a department head. Had some civilians working for me and a few military. All good workers.
And then how long did that last?
Let's see, 2 years. Then I went to my second ship after that, the USS Clackering. And I did that from 98 to 2000.
Any memorable experiences there?
The captain bet me that if I got all his CASREP parts, which is you have down equipment and you got order parts, that if I got all the parts onto the ship, that he would buy me a drink when we hit our next shortstop. And I got it.
Of course. Okay, so then what did you do?
After that, I went to Iwakuni, Japan, at a Marine Corps Air Station. I was a assistant supply department head there. And we had a very small state, Marine Corps Air Station, very small, probably no more than 5 miles wide. You could easily walk it in a matter of an hour or two.
What did you think of Japan?
Loved the people. You could ride your bike out in town, unlocked, walk away from it, come back, not touched. Couldn't do that here.
And what was your duty there?
Assistant supply department head.
Was it different now that you were out of country, the job?
It was a little bit difficult in that I went there without my family, so that made it a little difficult, but we communicated on the phone here and there.
Up to that point, had they been traveling around with you?
Well, I met my wife out in Idaho, and the only place she moved to me with was to Virginia, and I stayed in Virginia for up until before I went to Japan. You know, once I got to my first duty station, till then, she pretty much stayed there, and then she stayed there during my time in Japan. And then after Japan, I come to DCMA Hartford, and that was my last move.
And so that brings us up to present day.
Not quite.
Well,
Well, DCMA Hartford was my last duty station in the military on active duty, and during that time, that's when I went over to Kuwait and Iraq.
okay. When you were at DCMA, same job?
No, I was a contract administrator, so I kind of left the supply corps world and doing something. I was kind of aligned myself to do something when I got out, because I knew I was going to get out. So I picked that job. Now,
Was that a whole lot different?
a lot slower pace, a lot different. When you're used to go, go, go.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so you said next you went to Kuwait?
Well, with DCMA Hartford, they deploy people, and let's see, when was it? February 2003. I was deployed, and they initially sent me to Turkey because they thought they was going to do a northern front in Iraq if it ever happened. And then the Turkish people said no. So then I wound up in Kuwait waiting to do something. But I was in Turkey when they actually did invade Iraq. Then I went to Kuwait waiting to figure out what I was going to do. I did some quality assurance work, which didn't entail a whole lot. And then we went into Baghdad to set up a camp right outside the airport. And it's not the one you normally hear about. You normally hear about Camp Victory.
Right.
We were at Camp Slayer, which is right next to it.
Just to jump back for a second, what was Turkey like?
Well, they initially sent us to the air base there in Incirlik. We're just kind of waiting around. And then we went out to some staged area they were setting up outside the base, probably a good 100 miles away. Muddy, dirty, cramped, no sense of purpose. You're just kind of waiting around.
And how about Kuwait?
Kuwait, kind of the same thing, just waiting around to see what I was going to do. Because we already had other people there, and I was just kind of there to help them out and figure out where I was going.
No real set place at that point?
Not at that point, because DCMA was just trying to make sure we had people available to support. And we kind of jumped the gun a little bit.
And then when you got to Baghdad, what were your first impressions?
Well, we had to drive up there in vehicles. None of this armored car stuff that you see now. We were driving around from the airport area where I was over to the palace, which is in the middle of Baghdad, which they call the Green Zone. No, like I said, no armored vehicles, no escorts, just us in like a GMC Suburban and our little 9mm pistols and our flak jackets. That's it. So we were pretty much on our own. And that was the first time I went over there. And the second time I went over there, I was in, I did Basra and Qasr, and down in Qasr was Camp Buka as a detainee camp, which most people would call a prisoner of war camp, but the U.S. doesn't like to use that term for those they capture.
What was that like?
Well, the detainees stayed on one part of the compound, so they had a whole area off to themselves, and then the rest of the camp was off in another area. So you didn't really interact with them. They had certain rules, like don't take pictures of the detainees, don't talk to them, this and that.
So very
But
separate.
yeah, it was good. I didn't mind being there. I didn't want to go to Basra because the place in Basra was right up against the town, and that camp was mostly a State Department run camp, and DCMA was supporting that. But as far as safety, I just stayed in Buka. It was much safer because it was away from the town. We had one missile that came into the camp, but it didn't hit anybody. It hit a tent area that we were setting up, and one of the workers was like probably that far from it. But it didn't kill nobody. That's the closest I came to any attack or anything.
So no other combat situation aside from that?
No.
Okay, so.
I was more on a support role. I was doing contracting type stuff. So.
Yeah, but sometimes like peripherally things go on.
Yeah, we would have to drive here and there, but we never got into any situations.
Well, that's good. From Camp Slayer, where did you go?
From Camp Slayer, that's where I stayed. Then I come back to the U.S. for about a year, and then I went back to Qasr, Basra area. And both of those were in total 6 months each. And the last one was August to first part of February of 2004, 2005 was the last one.
And then after that, where did you go?
Well, I stayed with Hartford, and then I got out of the military, and then I took a job with DCMA Hartford as an engineer, because I was doing contract administration. I took a job with them down in Shelton, Connecticut as an industrial engineer. And then that was from 2006 to July of 2009. And that's why I took a job with the aircraft propulsion operation here. That's where I've been since. And I'm doing earned value type stuff and manufacturing, production type stuff.
Okay, jumping way back, do you have any particular memories of training experiences that stand out?
Nothing was really directed at me, but I had my roommate that was always getting picked on because he wore glasses and he was skinny and he talked funny, he had buck teeth. They just picked on him because he would try to do the yes sir, no sir thing, and the military doesn't. The military enlisted guys are the ones training you. You don't call them sir. He was always getting picked on.
Do you remember any of your instructors?
Not particularly. Just one of them that I stayed in contact a little bit with, but nothing on a personal level.
So, given that you were so removed, were there any casualties in your group at all?
From where I was, I don't recall any right offhand.
And just in general, over the course of your service, are there any memorable experiences that you recall?
That was kind of neat going to different ports and going into town and seeing different things.
Kind of a culture shock.
In a way, yeah. For me, it made me appreciate the U.S. more. Like when you go to Spain and everything's tight, closed in. When you're here, it's open, do whatever you want.
Yeah.
Or you're in Japan and everybody looks alike. Variety. Makes you appreciate variety.
Were you awarded any medals or citations?
Yeah, my first ship, I got Navy Achievement Medal when I left, and then these are personal ones. And I got 3 Joint Service Commendation Medals with DCMA Hartford. Then there's some various others I got. That was just because I was in the military, like the Global War on Terrorism Commendation Medal, and Global War on Terrorism Service Medal, and then various ones like that.
Okay, so now I'm going to ask you a couple questions about quality of life in the military.
Okay.
And you kind of touched on this before, but how did you stay in touch with family?
Well, when I was on my first 2 ships, we didn't really go anywhere, so I was home every night, pretty much, except when I deployed the one time on the Clackering. And it was pretty much email. That's pretty much all we had then was email. It wasn't feasible to do the phone thing at that time. But I was able to every now and then. Most people don't know this, but you can, from the ship, if you're able to get a line to one of the bases, you can set up a phone call from the base to wherever you need to call. And that's what I did a few times on the ship. There's just a time delay on the phone call, so you get tripped up on when you talk and when you listen.
Yeah.
But doing it that way cuts down on the cost and gives you a chance to do that. And I was also able to do the same thing when I was in Iraq. Fortunately, we had a satellite. I worked with the contractor, and they provided us satellite phone service, and they had a Texas phone number. So I had the option of using that, or I can use their number to call, again, a base, and then call home. Again, I would be paying some long distance charges, but it'd be US call versus a international call.
Right.
And then also when I was in Iraq, used webcam. So that was nice. And actually see me that, yeah, I'm alive. Not just that you're hearing me.
Yeah, I don't think we've heard that one yet. And what was the food like?
Some days you wouldn't want to eat it. But for the most part, I thought it was alright.
Vary based on where you were, ship versus Iraq versus...
Well, on the ship, you're worried about how much it costs and all that, so then how long you're out and what you can get. But for the most part, I mean, we tried to vary it up as much as we could. The best food I saw was when I was at the air base in Incirlik, when I was over at Turkey initially. They had a contractor running the facility. Lots of food. Crazy. But food-wise, I never really complained.
Did you have enough supplies?
I would say for the most part, you had what you needed. The toughest part was when being part of Hartford and going over as individuals, you know, working with the Army guys, and like they sent us over with, we had to fly into Kuwait, get ammunition from our own people, which was like 5 bullets or something. And this the first time I went over, and try to get extra from anybody, couldn't do it. So we're pretty much flying on our own. Supposed to be one military, but we're not.
Did you feel any pressure or stress?
No. Not as far as like being in the combat zone or anything. It's like you join the military and that's what you're there to do.
So nothing more than you expected?
Nah. I mean, if you're worried about dying, you're worrying about the wrong thing. That's what you signed up for.
Right. Was there anything you did for good luck?
Not that I can remember, no.
How about anybody around you? Did you notice anybody?
For good luck? No.
How did people entertain themselves?
Well, on the ship, we'd have like a bingo night, or every now and then you'd have the guys dress up and do like a little skit show or something.
Really?
Yeah. You know, something just to break up the monotony, because after a while, when you're out on the water for days on end, people actually start getting angry at each other.
Did you take part in any of the
Nah.
skits? No?
Nah.
Are there any good ones that you remember?
I didn't really watch them. Our command master chief participated too, so that was nice.
And then what about other times? Not on the ship?
Not on the ship. In Japan, I played softball to break up the time, or just go sightseeing. Because pretty much the time was yours at night, so unless they had some kind of intel from outside that something was going on, sometimes you just have to stay on base. But and then they also had MWR centers where you can go watch movies and play video games or something. Because you didn't have much in your room. You had TV, but only had select channels. You had to get out. If you didn't, you would start crazy.
Yeah, definitely. Were there any entertainers?
As far as big names?
Yeah, like any sort of USO thing.
Where I was, there was never any, but obviously they do come over. I was just never around it.
Right. Did you get a chance to go on any leave?
You mean during Iraq stuff, or
Yeah.
or just in general?
During, I guess in general.
Well, in general, yeah, you can go on leave. You get 30 days. Was it 30 days a year or something like that? Yeah, I took leave.
And then during deployments, did you?
I didn't take leave during deployment. There was a few times you could.
Right.
Like if you wanted to go, like when we pulled into Italy, some guys took off for a few days to go up to Rome or something.
But you didn't get off the ship at all?
No, because really my job was, whether in port or out to sea, my job went every day. Because I was a supply corps officer, so I got to worry about making sure the ship got fuel, food, money, all that type of stuff.
So you wanted to stay on top of that.
Yeah.
Do you recall any particularly humorous or unusual events?
So one time one of our aviators come crawling up to the ship after he'd been drinking at night. And there was another time the command master chief puked in the back of the CO's rental car. I'm like, that's a good example.
Probably never heard the end of that.
I don't know, I didn't bother me.
Were there any pranks that you would call on each other?
On my first ship, I didn't do this, but some guys would go around. The officers have a stateroom area, officers' country, and some of the junior officers would go into some of the older guys' staterooms and grab their boots or something and hide them up in the ceiling, or sometimes tape them in. Put tape up and down,
Yeah.
so they can't get out. But nothing to hurt anybody. Just to make them mad. You either laugh or you get mad.
Yeah. Possibly both. What did you think of your superiors and your fellows?
Most of them were pretty good. The most interesting one was my CO on my first ship was also my CO at the nuclear power training unit out in Idaho, which was weird. So I knew what he was like.
Was that a good relationship, or?
Well, he was hard, but you knew what to expect from him,
Mm-hmm.
which is kind of good because sometimes some people are kind of laid back, but then you don't know what they really expect of you.
Yeah.
So for me, it's easier to have somebody that's hard, and so you know the expectations, versus somebody that's laid back and then you get nailed for something that,
Yeah. You know when you're in trouble.
yeah. Am I meeting expectations or not? I don't know.
Right. Did you keep a journal at all?
I think I did the last time I was in Iraq. And I may have, I don't know if I did it in Japan or not. I think it was just in Iraq. And it's kind of mundane type stuff.
Do you recall the day your service ended?
Not really, because like I said, I transitioned from Hartford to Hartford, so
Yeah. Was there any?
and the way it worked was pretty much when I started with Hartford, I was on leave with the military, so it was invisible to me.
Was there any sort of ceremony that you did?
No. Then I just went straight into the reserves and then retired from that.
And you touched on this a little already, but what did you do in the days and weeks afterwards? After being discharged?
Work. I worked for DCMA Hartford. I didn't do anything special. Best part, I didn't have to move.
Yeah. That must have been a nice change too.
I didn't have to move, got the pay grade I wanted. Oh, it worked out for me.
Yeah.
I just mainly, I don't really keep friends. That's just me in general. I keep acquaintances, but I don't go out partying with guys or anything.
And did you join any veterans organizations?
No.
And did your military experience influence your thinking about war or about the military in general?
Sometimes you wonder why we go to war, because it doesn't really do much. What it does is destroy everything, and then you're trying to build everything back to the way we want it, and not necessarily the way the people that we invaded want it. Like Afghanistan right now is, to me, probably a waste of time. We've done our mission, and they've made no progress toward their own government. No value. In Iraq, we're pretty much setting them up in our own image, and not necessarily the image that works best for them. Me personally, I don't view dictatorship bad if to me it's the person in charge that's bad. It's not the fact that it is a dictatorship. Because if that's what you know, then that's what you know.
Yeah, it's just a cultural thing.
Right.
Do you attend reunions?
No.
And how did your service and experiences affect your life?
Well, I consider myself patriotic. It's kind of disappointing when you're like at a basketball game, and before the game, they play the national anthem, and the kids are sitting there talking, and parents are talking, people keep their hats on. So it's disrespectful.
Yeah.
It's disappointing.
You're just all the more aware of that.
Oh yeah. But then again, when you hear the national anthem, sometimes you get sick of hearing it. I mean, just to be honest.
Yeah, it's like rote.
Because to me, it's not the best song in the world. There's better songs that we could pick.
And is there anything you would like to add that we have not covered concerning?
I would just say military life's not for everybody, and I don't push it on my kids. If they want to do it, I'll let them choose that themselves. And same thing with their schoolwork. They don't have to do what I do. I don't expect that of them. Just really expect them to do the best they can.
Alright.
Whatever that is.
All of that having been said, I'd like to thank you for your service and for taking the time to be interviewed today.
Thank you.